All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 is a 1996 American animated musical fantasy adventure film and a sequel to Goldcrest Films' animated film All Dogs Go to Heaven, 1989. Produced by MGM/UA Family Entertainment and Metro Goldwyn Mayer Animation, it was co-directed by Paul Sabella and Larry Lecker. Dom DeLuise reprises his role from the first film, along new cast members Charlie Sheen, Ernest Borgnine, and Baby Newirth, respectively. All new characters are voiced by Sheena Easton, Adam Wiley, and George Hearn. Don Bluth, the director of the original film, had no involvement in it. It was the second of only 2 theatrical sequences in a film directed by Don Bluth to not involve Bluth himself, the first being An American Tail, Fievel Goes West, as 13 sequels to The Land Before Time and a single sequel to The Secret of NIMH were direct-to-video releases, along with 2 sequels of An All-American Tail in 1998 to 2000, as well as An All Dogs Christmas Carol. This was MGM's last theatrically released animated film until Igor, 2008. It had a DVD double feature release, with the first one in March 14th, 2006 and January 18th, 2011. It was also released on Blu-ray on March 29th, 2011. The film also served as the series premiere for All Dogs Go to Heaven, the series. Plot. Decades after the events of the first movie, Charlie B. Barkin, Charlie Sheen, welcomes his friend Itchy, Dom DeLuise, to heaven, but states he is disillusioned by the afterlife. Their old nemesis, Carface Carruthers, Ernest Borgnine, steals Gabriel's horn, but loses it somewhere over San Francisco in his attempt to escape with it. When the head angel Annabelle, Baby Newirth, announces the horn's theft, Charlie submits his candidacy to retrieve it, reminding Annabelle of his familiarity with street life. Annabelle sends Charlie and Itchy to Earth to receive it and gives them one miracle to use. Upon arrival in San Francisco, Charlie and Itchy attempt to indulge in their old habits, but they discover that they are ghosts, and therefore are unable to interact with the physical world. At a tavern where Charlie is enchanted by a beautiful and charming Irish settler named Sasha LaFleur, Sheena Easton, Carface appears in a corporeal form granted by a red dog collar by the Red, George Hearn, an elderly dog fortune teller who gives Charlie and Itchy equivalent collars effective for a single day. Unbeknownst to the duo, Red is actually a large demonic cat who intends to take the horn for himself with Carface's help. Charlie and Itchy meet Sasha, and an 8-year-old human boy she is looking for, named David, Adam Wiley, who ran away from home to become a street musician. Charlie uses his miracle to grant Sasha the ability to converse with David, who comes to believe that Charlie is his guardian angel. Charlie sees the horn being taken into SFPD police station and recovers it, but in his reluctance to return to heaven, he hides it in a lobster trap. After David's street performance ends in failure, he finally reveals that he believes that his father and stepmother, who are expecting a new baby, will care for it once it is born. Charlie persuades him otherwise and promises to return him home, but privately expresses to Sasha his doubts on being able to fulfill his promise. Charlie and Itchy's collars vanish, and they once more become ghosts. Carface kidnaps David and orders Charlie to bring Gabriel's horn to Alcatraz Island and give it to Red in exchange for David's life. Determined to keep his word, Charlie satisfies Red's demands, and Red uses the horn to capture and imprison Heaven's canine angels in Alcatraz while opening a portal to permanently connect the human world to hell. After a struggle against Red, Charlie regains the horn and plays it to free the angels and send Red and Carface, the latter having been sold as soul for the collar, back to hell. Ooh. Charlie and Itchy are spirited away to heaven, and Charlie gives the horn back to Annabelle in exchange for a new life. Charlie bids farewell to Itchy, who decides to remain in heaven, and while Annabelle and Itchy return to heaven, Charlie returns to San Francisco and happily reunites with Sasha and David. David returns home and reconciles with his relieved father, and stepmother. Charlie and Sasha, who have become mates, are adopted by David's family as pets. Voice cast. Burt Reynolds, Vic Tayback, and Melba Moore are replaced by Charlie Sheen, Ernest Borgnine, and Babe Newirth. However, 3 characters were written out of the sequel. Anne-Marie was written out of the story due to the murder of Judith Barcy in July 25th, 1988, while Killer and Flo were written out of the story because Charles Neeson Reilly and Lonnie Anderson chose not to have them return from their roles in the first film, although Riley returned to the third movie and the TV series. Main characters: Charlie Sheen as Charles Charlie B. Barkin, a German shepherd who returns from heaven to find Gabrielle's horn. It is revealed that as a puppy, he ran away from home, which explains the absence of Charlie's parents, who are briefly shown in the original film and it records his book in a song, Let Me Be Surprised. At a point, he mentions to David to convince him to return home. Charlie replaced Burt Reynolds from the first film due to Reynolds participating in 1996 films Citizen Ruth, Striptease, and Mad Dog Time. Jesse Cordy is Charlie's singing voice. Dom DeLuise is Itchford Itchy Dashend, Charlie's best friend. He wants to find the horn and go back to heaven. Dom DeLuise is the only original actor to reprise his role from the first film. Sheena Easton as Sasha LaFleur, an attractive Irish setter, talented lounge singer, and Charlie's love interest. Adam Wiley as David, a disillusioned 8-year-old human boy. As Sasha's owner, he believes that Charlie and Itchy are guardian angels sent to get him back home safely. He replaces the role of Anne-Marie from the original film. George Hearn is Red, a large beast-like demonic cat from hell, and the main antagonist. His goal is to imprison the dogs of heaven, overthrow humanity, and permanently join hell with the mortal world. To manipulate his victims, he disguises himself as a blinded elderly dog through his ability to transform, shape-shifting. Babe Newirth is Annabelle, the archangel whippet in heaven. She summons Charlie and Itchy to receive Gabrielle's stolen horn. Ernest Bognine as Carface Carruthers, Charlie's arch-enemy, a pit/bulldog mix, who becomes a henchman to Red through a deal with him. Contradictory to his aggressive personality in the original film, he appears quite slow-witted and timid in this film. Supporting characters: Wallace Shawn as Labrador MC, the duplicitous MC at Sasha's Lounge. Hamilton Camp as Gavin, a Chihuahua. He waits for dogs, especially a dog who puts on some weight, to be healthy, called Fluffy. Dan Castellaneta as Tall Customs Dog. Pat Corley as Officer McDowell. Jim Cunnings as Jingles. Jingles. A Yorkshire Terrier who got kicked out of the sing-off, but was given first place bone by Sasha. Bobby DeCiccio as Tom, David's father. Annette Held as Claire, David's loving pregnant stepmother. Marabina James as Officer Reyes. Tony J as Reginald. Maurice LaMarche as Lost and Found Officer. Steve Mackle as Short Customs Dog. And Kevin Michael Richardson as Ace the Saint Bernard, also known as Officer Adam Andrews. Production. David Feiss served as an in-house supervising animator, storyboard artist, and character designer for the stateside production. Much of the film's animation was outsourced to foreign studios, such as Wang Film Productions in Taipei, Taiwan, from which Yang Xin Song was the directing animator, and its Bangkok, Thailand-based division, from which Zhou Huang and Shifu Liao were supervising animators. Phoenix Animation in Toronto, Ontario, from which Julian Harris was the directing animator. A-Film in Copenhagen, Denmark, from which Jordan Lurdam was the directing animator. Dino Animation in London, England, from which Dino Anastasio was a sequence director. Red Rover in London, England, from which Andy Knight was the directing animator. Scott Wolf in St. Leonard's, Australia, from which Peter Sheenan and Richard Zaludik were art directors. Catflap Animation in Crow's Mess, Australia, from which Maurice Glaucomini was a supervising animator. Franck and Franck in Paris, France, from which Emmanuel Franck was a supervising animator. And Screen Animation in Ireland Ltd. in Dublin, Ireland. Soundtrack. A soundtrack album was released on the same day as the film's theatrical release by Angel Records, featuring music composed by Mark Waters. The tracking list is as follows. 1. Main title, Heavenly Ceremony, instrumental. 2. It's Too Heavenly Here, Jesse Cordy. 3. Count Me Out, Sheena Easton. 4. My Afghan Hairless, Jim Cummings. 5. It Feels So Good to Be Bad, George Hearn and Ernest Borgnine. 6. Uneasy Street, Jesse Cordy, Adam Wiley, and Don DeLuise. 7. I Will Always Be With You, movie, Sheena Easton and Jesse Cordy. 8. Gabrielle's Horn, New Arrivals, instrumental. 9. Carface Steals the Horn, Charlie Volunteers, instrumental. 10. Police Chase, instrumental. 11. Red's Transformation, instrumental. 12. We Meet David, instrumental. 13. Battle for Gabriel's Horn, instrumental. 14. Family Reunion / It's Too Heavenly Here, reprise, instrumental. 15. I Will Always Be With You, end title, pop version, Helen Darling and Danny Frazier. 16. Dr. Coomer's Bumping Mix, Dr. Coomer. Release. Box office. Although the budget is unknown, the film earned an estimated $2,256,118 during its opening weekend, and it grossed $8,620,678 in its theatrical release. It had the worst opening weekend for an animated film playing in over 2,000 theaters until Delgo in 2008. Critical reception. The film has a 20% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 5 reviews. Despite the negative reception, much of the voice actors received praise. Adam Wiley was nominated for Young Artist Best Performance in a Voiceover by Young Artist Award for his work in it, but lost to Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Sheena Easton's Sasha and George Hearn's Red, in particular, have been held up as examples of well-done voice acting carried in animated film. Common Sense Media, on the other hand, gave it positive reviews because some improvements over its predecessors with the plotline and some modifications with Charlie's concept. Accolades. Young Artist Awards, Best Family Feature, Animation or Special Effects, and Best New Voiceover Performance, Adam Wiley. References. All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 at Box Office Mojo. Lundberg, Jeff, 1999. The Encyclopedia of Animated Cartoons. Checkmark Books, page 163. ISBN 0-8160-38317. Received June 6, 2020. 3. The worst opening at the box office for 2,000 plus theater releases. Box Office Mojo. August 16th, 2009. Retrieved September 6th, 2010. 4. The Cash Registers Are Ringing. Los Angeles Times. Received May 31st, 2012. 5. All Dogs Go to Heaven 2. Retrieved May 25th, 2018. 6. Archive copy, archived from the original on April 2nd, 2011. Retrieved March 31st, 2011. 7. All Dogs sequel struggles to pick up scent of adventure. Los Angeles Times. Retrieved May 31st, 2012. 8. All Dogs Go to Heaven 2. Common Sense Media. External links. All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 on IMDb. All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 at AllMovie. And All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 at Rotten Tomatoes. All Dogs Go to Heaven. Finishing piece. The main movie spoiler that has been commonly spread through the media, known as HLVR AI, also known as Half-Life VR, but the AI is self-aware, is that at the end of the movie, beloved character Gordon Freeman perishes in a dramatic scene. This spoiler, however, has been proved to